welcome to Social Media Investigations. This is clearly a very exciting module. We've got lots of stuff packed in here, so let's go ahead, jump in, and get started. In this video, we'll lay the foundation for some of the core concepts of how humans have begun to interact on social media platforms. They are called social networks or social media or social platforms, but they all generally employ similar styles. At its heart, we as humans want to be connected. The psychology of this stuff is pretty profound, but we want to be with and interact with groups of people who are similar to us, whether it's employer or occupation, hobbies, faith, activities, school, or other common experience or interests. Social media is a way to make this happen virtually. So in the old days, dating myself, like 10 years ago, people would actually get together in person and meet. Professional conferences or business associations would host gatherings. People would meet up in community centers or libraries or public meeting spaces, or bars or restaurants or other places. So much is now done online. With this comes the potential for problems and misuse, but it's also very, very beneficial as well. And in this video, we'll be discussing some of the applications of investigative tools and process to the most common social media platforms. Social media is really everywhere. We refer to the big four social media platforms. We are referring to FITY, F-I-T-Y. No, not 50 Cent the rapper, but Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. So those are the big four in the US. But if you're looking at foreign actors or foreign individuals, there may be other ones. For example, VK is the Facebook in Russia, and Baidu is the search engine of choice right now in China. Remember that to take that into account and do some research on the global platforms and social media habits before you ascribe US habits and platforms to foreign persons or individuals. This is a graphic from January 2018 assessment called by We Are Social. It shows that about 53% of the planet has internet access, and about 42% are active social media users. That's all pretty impressive. It also means that much of the information we need to find about people, organizations, or companies may be online, and much of it through their own postings. So, interestingly enough, that you see for 2019, when they released the study, total internet users increased from 53% to 57%. Active social media users increased from 42% to 45%. Mobile users dropped slightly in numbers, but still was an astonishing 68%. And the active mobile social media users increased from 39% to 42%. This chart to me is very telling. It provides some unique perspectives. From 2018 to 2019, the world's population increased 84 million by 84 million, a 1.1% increase, and internet users increased 9.1%. But that 9.1% represents 367 million people. It's really incredible. Active social media users who came on were also up 9%. These numbers represent the vast array of data that's available online. I got this stuff online. It's often available just by knowing where to look. I want to talk about this. It's hard to read. It's a very busy slide, and you can review it at conversationprism.com. But I share it because I think it actually has some really unique and interesting points. There are many slices to the wheel. The wheel represents the vast ecosystems available in social media and social platforms. There's really something for everyone. The wheel was introduced over 10 years ago, and it's gone through 5 revisions. The website does indicate that it was last updated in 2013, so we're dating ourselves now. But for our purposes, there are a few very interesting categories that bear discussion. It's not the actual platforms that I want you to consider, but actually the categories. You can always use the categories to help narrow your search once it's needed. This one I want to show you is economically motivated, the social marketplace, where people can buy and sell things. Think of a yard sale or rummage sale online. Some examples of this could be Etsy or Living Social or Facebook Marketplace. Second, there's also niche working sites. Again, these are ways for people to make money. It's like the gig economy. Remember, it's about the categories. Use these categories to help you think about the potential searches and do some pre-research to figure out what's available. So the conversation prism can be very overwhelming, so let me try and break it down into something a little bit more manageable. Here's a chart that I created. I think there are 4 main types of social platforms that are useful for different types of investigations. The first is social networking. Many of these are familiar to everyone: Facebook, LinkedIn, things like Match.com, and other special interest groups. The objective is to bring people together primarily for professional or business purposes, dating or romance, or other special interests like hobbies. The second group we look at are called sharing platforms. Much of them, like networking platforms, they are forums or boards, sometimes called readers. They can be image sharing like Instagram, Flickr, or Imgur, or other media like videos. Third, and also blogs. Blogs are in there too, and those are important. Third, you have social curation sites. These are really interesting because sometimes they can be useful, sometimes they just give you an insight into the person if they're using them. This is a way to share and engage on websites, links, and other things. The most popular example here is probably Pinterest. And finally, we have messaging apps and platforms. These help us communicate. We won't get into these a lot, but it is important to recognize they are very prevalent. The Pew Research Center, a well-known data collection survey firm, nonprofit I should mention, began collecting information about U.S. users of social media back in 2005. They did this because social media was emerging as a new way to connect with one another, obtain news and information, share things, and provide entertainment. This is a snapshot from their 2018 report. As you can see, YouTube was the most active platform with nearly 75% of US users using it. In addition, 68% used Facebook. But if you look at the trends below these high-level numbers, you can see that a lot of it is also very age-dependent. For example, 94% of 18 to 24-year-olds use YouTube, while only 10% in the 65-plus category use Instagram. The two very interesting statistics that I think bear pointing out. This is because they are 2 data points that have a lot of significance for finding people online. First, 90% of LinkedIn users also use Facebook. So that means there's a strong likelihood that if they have a LinkedIn account, there's also probably a Facebook account. Second, 50% of Twitter users also have a LinkedIn profile. While this isn't a strong correlation, it is clearly something to pay attention to. Here, almost 3/4 of the population uses more than one social media platform. The average American uses 3. And that's a good way to think about these platforms. They may not be currently active on them. They may have shifted to other or more newer platforms, but the numbers are still pretty interesting. Look at the number of platforms used and the profiles. Some people are more active users than others. They also may be active on one specific platform for a period of time. They may also consume and actually not post anything. But it's quite telling that 51% of adults check Facebook more than once or twice a day. That's pretty active. You may also want to review the most recent Pew Research report to see how this trend evolves over time and what new things come online. So what does this mean for investigators? Well, first of all, it's useful to know about the possible universe of platforms. Granted, these do change frequently, but hopefully that's why it's interesting. It's also good to have a plan of attack based on the likelihood of the subject and their demographics. This might be able to help you save time instead of just doing a blind search. Checking usernames is also very helpful, since many people may also use the same or very similar usernames to create accounts on different platforms. Finally, I urge you to think beyond the usual suspects of the platforms we've discussed here. There are so many platforms, and they cater to so many different people and audience types. You will definitely want to do some research there. Social media provides a wealth of investigative data. It can also be useful for both evidence and leads to follow up on. In some cases, it can help tie a person to a particular crime or incident. So messaging information could also reveal the person's plans or intentions, like if they were conducting surveillance on a bank before they robbed it. And likewise, if their motives are profit or revenge, that information could also be contained. Many apps and sites also include specific location information. Regardless of what issue is being investigated, a social network can be a great avenue for conducting further investigations. Since many of these sites hold a treasure trove of information, we always want to start with some basic questions before diving in and starting to search. First, does this person actually have one or more social media accounts? They may not. Some people choose not to, and that's okay. Second, think about what platforms they might use if they are. This is where the data from Pew could be very useful in helping to align those statistical tendencies with the known profile of the person we're investigating. Third, while they may have social media profiles, they may not actually be active on them. And in fact, many accounts are probably very passive, or they forgot their password. My grandmother, who's over 90, does have a Facebook account, but she rarely posts anything. Mostly she uses it to connect with her very large family, spread all across North America and Europe, and even Australia now. Finally, many of us keep our social media account private because we don't want to share our life in real time with the entire planet. These are all important questions to consider before embarking down a rabbit hole, or a potential rabbit hole, blindly searching. As you probably know, Web 2.0 has a much broader vocabulary than others. This creates a challenge in terms of the legal arena. Sometimes we do talk in coded language. Okay, that was a bad Python pun, and I'm sorry. But we do use electronic shorthand like TTYL for talk to you later, or LOL, laugh out loud. But we've also begun to use these little graphical representations called emoticons. I won't get into this deeply, but I would urge you, if you want a fascinating read, look up the case list maintained by Santa Clara University law professor Eric Goldman. His research has raised some very interesting points. Here we see two different versions of the hexadecimal HTML entity coding for the man with a monocle. Well, the one on the right is clearly frowning while the other one is smiling and jovial. One can easily see how careful analysis of these must be undertaken in the legal setting. So here are a few final tips and tricks to help you search smarter. Remember that many people often recycle their usernames for various platforms. When researching a platform, it may be useful to conduct some pre-research on them, including finding their privacy and legal policies, as well as their law enforcement guidelines. Many platforms, in the name of transparency, have also begun making these public, and they are very interesting to read. I also leave you with the two sites, the IACP Social Media Center and the IACP Cyber Center, both of which have excellent information. And that's it. Until next time, happy hunting. We'll see you on the discussion boards.